the co-creation really changed my perspective on problem solving, um, through the emphasis on always focusing on aligning the stakeholders and aligning everything together. So basically, the co-creation is an approach of the design thinking that, as I just said, it's basically they are following the same methodology that we do use it in business. And actually, I do use it in personal life as well to understand others, their behaviors, their what their feelings, thinking during a process or during anything that they are doing in real life. So it really helps the development of the new products and services. And we do consider it as a language for our team, to be honest. It's a language that really resonates with so many people. And this means that we do work together with the clients, with the business partners, with all stakeholders involved in the process. And we do involve them since step zero. And this is just to keep them aligned and keep ourselves aligned with the problem that they are facing. And we do actually start the methodology with analyzing the client's personas, the feelings, the needs and pain points, and all these, identifying all of these will help us to find the best solutions or the services that they are looking for. Okay, so as I just said, the co-creation is really helping us to do so many things. And one of the things that it helps us to streamline the constructive discussion, and it also reduces the decision-making cycles. As I said, it really involves the stakeholders in every step, so they will feel that their really participation is really important and their voice is really heard since the planning step. So let me explain that the co-creation has three main phases that starts with the understand and explore, where we try to understand the problems and explore all the possible personas or the users. And sometimes we do use the terminology of the sponsor users instead of the potential users. So we do identify all of these, and then we start creating or identifying all the different personas for the solution. So the second phase is exploring and define. And here we try to come up with any idea, with any solution, even if it was just something like, it's not, we cannot call it an idea, however, something that will help us improve the problems that has been defined in the first phase. Then the last phase is where we plan and we plan our actions. Basically, after we did the filtration of the ideas in the second phase, we need to assess them and plan for the action plan, basically. So before we move on or jump to the details of the co-creation, I wanted to explain the journey of it. So sometimes we start with the user research. This is about the market of the client, the country of it, like all the specifications regarding the clients and what are the possible personas. Basically, if we do have a country that really supports and empower women, then we would need to consider one of the personas to have a woman, something like that. We will need to consider the names of that country, something like that. So after that, we do analyze the business impact. Then we do ask ourselves and have some assumptions regarding the process or the product or the thing that we are trying to create. Then we start mapping the stakeholders to analyze and understand every stakeholder that should be involved in the process. But then after that, we will start the empathy map. This is where we understand exactly what's the experience or the behaviors of the all the personas that we already defined in the first step. After that, we understand their pain areas, and honestly, we don't use the games. This is like what really motivates them. However, we look at the pain areas. We look at the pain areas where we will need to create some solutions and come up with ideas so we can reach the ultimate goal of the client, which is solving their problems. So after that, we do use something is called experience-based roadmap. And this is where we define the short-term goals and the long-term outcomes as well. I will explain all of these in details in the next slide, so don't worry about it. So after we do the experience roadmap, where we define the short and long-term goals and actions, we do another scenario. This is where we chart and explain the process itself, the existing scenario or the process, so we understand what's going on in the process. So next is defining the need statement. This is where we align all the perspectives of all the stakeholders to have one aligned opinion, basically, that will enable us. So the purpose of it is just to explain it later if we want to do that. After that, we are supposed to start with the hills. This is a concept of how to make the wow factor for the client itself. After that, we start creating the user stories. This is where we start transforming the requirements or the needs into features. After that, we start prioritizing the user stories or the ideas that we have identified. After that, we start visualizing the most important ideas and make them visualize. This is something like a Japanese manga, where you can see a visual or graphic drawing with an explanation of it. So in each of these steps, activities, or whatever we can call it, we do use agile co-creation. This is where we use flexibility. We use so many tools at the same time and methodologies to streamline every process here. We have to come up with a really great solution or a product. And after that, we do playbacks. This is where we listen to everything that has been done, all the deliverables and the results. And this will let me go back again to the playbacks. This is where we get the feedback. Also, if we did miss anything, this is the time where we get everything missing as well. So after that is the testing. We do so many testing to ensure that the solution or the product doesn't have any bugs or challenges. And after that is the product review, where we demo the whole presentation or the demo to the stakeholders first, or sometimes we do it with the team members first, just in case if there are some bugs, and then we do it with the stakeholders afterwards. So this is the whole journey of it, and honestly, sometimes it differs from a team to another, from a client to another, and it's all based on their needs. So anyway, like every journey that has been created for every client will make us reach to the client's ultimate goal. So this is another journey. So as I was saying, the journey really differs from a client to another, and this is actually what our team really uses every time we do design thinking or co-creation workshops with clients or business partners. So we start with the user research, personas, empathy map, and then you can see the difference here. We do after every activity, we do a playback. Why do we do that? Because if we are missing anything, this will not take us any effort or time to redo the work or something like that. After we do the empathy map to analyze the behaviors of the clients, we do a playback then as a scenario to understand the process that they're going through, another playback just in case if we missed anything, and to discuss all of the deliverables in this activity. Then we do big ideas. This is where we create or gather all the ideas to solve the problems that has been identified before in the empathy map and the other scenario. And we do another playback just in case if we missed any ideas that can solve a specific, like we don't limit ourselves here. So if in case if we forgot any idea that, or maybe we just remembered that this solution will really help us again in the playback, during the playback, then we can add more ideas to it. After we gather all the information, the ideas, sorry, we will start prioritizing them based on their importance and feasibility, and we will do another playback. So as you can see, playback really helps us to get feedback from everyone and add to it if we do have anything, anything. After that, sometimes we do a desired scenarios just in case if we wanted to improve the existing one. Another playback is taking place, and then the hills, as I said before, this is where we do the wow factor. Another playback is taking place, and then the action plan where we do the prototype or the actual implementation of the solution. Once we're done with that, evaluation, and then the playback theater where we do create a story for everything that has been created in the previous activities. Okay, so let's start with explaining the phases in details. Okay, so the first phase is basically about the understanding and exploring, where we can see that it starts with, as we said, the user research. We need to do our homework first to understand the personas. After we do our homework, we will start creating those personas, which is followed by an empathy map where we do analyze their feelings, their situation, the situation, sorry, that they are going through. Then we'll do the pains and gains, where we analyze and identify all the pain points and the motivators for the personas, whether it's a product, process, solution, or anything like that. Anyway, so the last activity in phase one is defining the need statement, where we do align all the stakeholders. As I said before, so before we do any activity, we will need to do our homework, which like requires 3 of the main things that we will need to do. So first is defining the intent. This is where we define the ultimate goal, understand the expected outcomes from the client and their really needs. This can be like something like digital transformation, automation, maybe reduce operational costs, something like that. So it all depends on the intention of the client. And this is an example that we did before with one of our clients. So we did have like a couple of clients all together, and we didn't want to specify any name. So this was an imaginary bank, and we just wanted for them to understand the importance of creating an intent. So the example says here that we will need to digitally transform Future Today. Future Today is the name of the company. To solve recurring business and technical problems, achieve proactive customer care, compete globally, and build a strong and secure infrastructure. So this is the intent. And we can see that all of them have the ultimate goal of the client. So once the intent is defined, we will need to go and define the focus areas, which are the topics that we should really focus on to reach the expected outcomes that we did identify just in the slide before. So this will enable us to drive critical and different aspects, and will enable us to tackle the challenges in the next steps as well. So this is an example of the focus areas that will achieve the intent example that we just went through: accelerate the digital transformation, compete with a new entrant, exceed customer expectation, and comply with government policy statements, directives, and regulations. So one last thing before we do start the first activity in phase one is understanding the user. And this is where we do our research. It's about all the possible personas, where we analyze their experiences and try understand their feelings. Once we are done, we will start creating the personas. And before we do, like, while we are creating the personas, there are two main categories that we'll need to think about. So the first category is the generic persona, where we will have the name, the title of the person or the persona, the role, the age, the skills, and education. This is all about his details. The next category is the contextual one, which is really related to his job. Something like that can have the motivations, what's the work environment that he's working in, the scenarios, the concerns, the tasks he's doing in his work, pain points, and something like that. And let me tell you that we mostly use three main personas in every workshop. The CEO covers the business problems. The CIO covers the technical problems inside the company, and the client, which reflects the client's problem, of course. Okay, so this is an example of how do we think about the information of the persona. This is just an imaginary persona that we have created, and we can see the generic information have that Khalid is 39 years old. He's a CIO since the year of 2022, and his domain is cloud technology, which is his major. And he really values commitment and innovation, and he always wanted to implement the global digital transactions in many currencies in his company since he got this role. And he really faces so many issues since he is lacking some of insights on data. So this is regarding his life. Going through deeply into his work details, we can see that the pain areas that he has too many data. What's this? So one of his concerns is increasing the customer experience. One of his motivation is making things easier for IT. And he really, so part of his job is negotiating complexity with the customers and employees. The tasks is decision-making based on the data, and he really looks for an open innovation and inclusive environment in his job. So now we have created the persona. The next step is understanding those personas that we have created. So this is just an example as a CIO. However, sometimes we do have like 3 personas per client. Sometimes we do have 2, so 2 is enough for them. Sometimes we do have 6, 7, as many as possible for that specific persona. Okay, so the empathy map really mirrors the humans' need and their feedback through the experience that they are going through. And as you can see here, it really enables us to put ourselves in their shoes, to understand what they are feeling, as you can see here. So those are the main 4 questions that we look for. What they are feeling, what they are thinking, what they are saying, and what they are doing during a specific process or an experience that they are going through. Whether it's good or bad, we will need to document everything here. And one more thing that we don't forget is participating all the stakeholders in those steps again. So once we are done, next in phase 1 is doing the as is scenario, which is the actual scenario of the process or the situation that the personas are going through, and we will need to create an as is scenario for each of the personas, just to put ourselves in their feeling based on different personas, so we can understand every feeling of them. So we'll need to identify every step here in the process or the situation, as well as what they are thinking in each step and what they are feeling. So this is just to understand where is the weakest step in the process that will take us to the pain areas. So basically, this is where we identify the weakest step, as I said, to identify every pain point, whether it's really small or big, or just where we need to have the lowest importance step in the process, so we can at least improve it if we don't have any pain points. So if we go back, we can see that here we are defining everything, and then we categorize them. We basically, once we do the categorization, we start doing the pain areas right here. So this will be much easier for the client. However, this is just an example of the pain areas the persona that we have created as a CIO in his job. So one of the pain points can be outdated banking technology, hitting license limits. Debugging consumes so much time. He wants to have effective use of the bank data, and there are thousands of IT incidents per month. So this is one. So those are the pain areas that Khaled faces during his job as a CIO. Okay, so the last thing before we finalize the first phase is defining the need statement, which make us align with all the different point of views before moving forward into ideation, which creates commitment and agreement with the entire team on who is the primary user, basically. So sometimes it explains the needs as well, and explain the benefit of the solution. So this is an example of one of our clients writing a need statement, and it looks like something like, so a citizens need to do maybe something like transaction payment, so they can finish a service online instead of going to the office or the department, something like that. Okay, so one last thing before we end the first phase is going through the playback. Playback means just listening again to whatever we did in all of the activities in the first phase, in a story format, basically. Just in case if we missed anything, if we do have any feedback from any of the from the stakeholders, this is the perfect time for it. So let me explain the playback. Why do we do it? So it really helps us to get the lessons learned from all the activities that has been done, and we do encourage transparency and inclusion. And it's really repeated, as you can see, that it will help us to ensure alignment, as I have been saying all the session. Yeah, basically this is the importance of it. And then once we want to start the playback, we do invite the stakeholders, as sometimes we do like different groups inside of the workshops, whether it's physical or virtual. We do like collect so many groups. They can start working on each of the personas. That's why we'll need to invite all of them in one place, and then start making the sponsor users, or maybe the potential users, we can say the stakeholders, to explain the deliverables or the outcomes of the activities that has been created, listen to their feedback, to everyone's feedback, and determine the next steps as well. So just to summarize, we went through the user research and personas creation, the empathy map, where we analyze and understand the user's personas, the user's feeling and their experience, and then we identify the pains, and the need statement, where we align everyone together. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I will answer them when I'm finished with the presentation. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we are done with the first phase, and we will move to the next phase, which is the explore and define. And we start with the big ideas exercise, then the prioritization grid exercise, the user stories, and the storyboard exercise. Okay, just let me breathe right now. So all of these activities and the second phase will enable us to define solutions based on the problems that has been identified in the first phase, which we will start with the big ideas. This is where we gather every single idea, whether it's really big or really silly and small one. So there's no limit here, and we're just trying to address the user's need and solve their problems. So we shouldn't limit ourselves here, and believe me, do not underestimate the power of a silly idea, really, because silly ideas sometimes do really improve the process, really can be created through like to the way to the solution. It can take us to this like a silly idea can really solve our big problems. Okay, so after we gather all the details and the the ideas, sorry, we can compare and cluster similar ones, label the clusters in one term, in a single term, and then move them into two axes, as you can see here. So this is the vertical one is the importance axis, and then the other one, this is the feasibility. And you can see that this is really low, and once you're moving to the right, you can see it's really getting high. And in this axis is from the down, it's really low, and then it gets really high once you get up. So this means that when you place an idea to this grid, when it gets over right here, this is the most important ideas that has highest feasibility and priority. And when it gets down, it has lower importance and feasibility. So this exercise really helps us to assess the ideas, to identify the most critical ideas that we should use. And once we're done with that, we start voting between our team, or maybe the stakeholders. And this is an example of it. Since we're talking about Khaled, this is an example of the ideas that can solve his problem that has been defined in the first phase. So let's go to the user stories. So the user stories basically describes the requirements that are transformed from it was transformed from the requirements to the new features of the service, the process, the solution, whatever we can call it. And we usually use, once we identified all the user stories, we do use a project management tool to help us follow up on every single user story that has been created. Who's the owner of this one, this user story? What's the deadline? What's the starting date of it? Is there any blockers? Is there any updates on it? We can add all of those things in one card of for each the user stories, just to follow up on them. Okay, so we close the defining phase with the storyboard, where we visualize the stories or the user stories that we have created, just an activity pack, to help us to seek the validation from the stakeholders, just to take the users in each of the steps or the stages, and we can reflect after that. So this is, as I said before, it really looks like a Japanese manga, and this is an example, clear example of it. So I don't think I should explain it. So one last thing before we close the phase is going to another playback to get the feedbacks on the ideas, and what else? Yeah, to check the very list ideas as well, just in case if we missed a really great idea that will help us to reach the ultimate goal. So just to summarize, we went through the big ideas, the prioritization grid, the user stories, and the storyboard. And we can see that really it helped us to reach the outcomes of what are the solutions that will help us to solve the problems that has been identified in the first phase. So just a reminder for you, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat and I will check them after the presentation. Thank you so much. So the last phase is going to the planning and action, and which starts with the experience-based roadmap. This is where, with all the necessary information, we will need to chart the user experience to clarify the short-term actions and the long-term outcomes as well. Then, to explore the path without losing any insight or any sight of the goal, we will need to write the hills, which is the wow factor. This is to align all the team as well to solve the right challenges. So we don't forget to use the agile co-creation. This is where we use flexibility, we use continuous improvements in every step of the activity in the process of the co-creation. We don't forget the tools as well. And then after creating the solution itself, we will need to do some different type of testing just to ensure that the solution doesn't have any bugs or problems. And at the end, we will do the product review where the feedback is given from the team, the stakeholders together. Okay, so going deep into the processes, or the activities. So this activity, which is the experience-based roadmap, is basically looking at the experience from the user's perspective, where we will, as I said before, that we do define the short-term actions and then long-term outcomes, and we do start to envision them as actually. And let me tell you that our team really usually use the cake example, as you can see here, to determine the actions, the short term and the long term. And so the short term actions are connected to the cupcake, as you can see here, which are the actions that have really small, and it doesn't take like a long time to complete it. However, it needs all the ingredients of the of creating or making or baking a cake, and able to in order to make it successful. So again, it's a really completed product or a cake. However, it's really small and it doesn't take so much time, easy and simple. And it's not missing anything here right now. So moving to the bigger cake, it's something like a birthday cake. It's exactly the same as the previous example. However, it may have different flavors, different size, different frosting flavors, I don't know, colors, designs, and of course more ingredients to make it like big. So in real life, the birthday cake will basically take more time and effort to make. So this is the difference between the small actions and the medium-sized actions. So the last, or the long-term actions, outcomes could be really connected to the wedding cakes. This is where we have the biggest pieces of the solution, the product, the services, whatever we can call it. However, it will take much more ingredients, like lots of ingredients. However, it will not be like, it will not, oh no, it will take so much time and effort. Okay. So next is defining the hills that really enables us to transform the needs into goals. And here we are focusing on what, who, what, and wow. So the wow factor, what are we creating and who is going to be responsible for it. And this is an example of a hill that we have created with our clients. We can see here that the second one has been really redefined so many times. So a business user can access web application needed to do his or her job, and we can see that it was 10 minutes or less. However, it has been redefined and into 1 minute. So this is a wow factor for one of the features for a client. So agile, looking at each phase, we do use agile, and agile helps us to emphasize on collaboration, flexibility, continuous improvements, and ensure that the product or the service that we are creating has really high quality results. And we do use a set of tools to get the job done. We do focus on failing fast and repetitive, however, just to overcome biases and gain inspirations. So let me take you through the Agile co-creation stages. So the first one is before the development process, then during the development, what we do, then after a development stage. So the before development, where we ensure, the first one is ensuring that epics are defined, and this is the meaning of epics is basically they are a chunk of work that has only one common objectives, and then we have backlogs inside of it, something like that. And I will explain backlogs in a second. So an epic could be something like a feature, a customer request, a business requirement, something like that, and that can help us to understand who is accountable for each epic, basically. So another thing before we start the development process is time estimation, just to have expectations, to set deadlines for each of these the created epics. Then we do a skill assessment where we assess if the team does have all the skills that are needed to make the work done. After that, we start creating the backlogs. This is the same meaning as the tasks that we need to prioritize them. So if we did finish the first one, the first backlog, we will need to go to the other one. So this defining the backlogs, we'll need to define who are the skills or the team members that should be honored, accountable for as well. The last thing before we start the development process is the sprint planning. And this is where we start planning for the next 2 weeks with very clear and feasible goals. Okay, so during the development process, we will have daily stand-ups. We can call it daily scrums or meetings, something like that, where all of the team discusses the progress of the planned tasks that has been created in the sprint. And if any of the team members are facing any blocker and we can solve it, or we do have an experience about it, here this is the best time so we can help them. So furthermore, we manage our tasks in, as I said before, in a project management tool where we can add the epics, the user stories, we can add the features, whatever we can call it as well there. This is just to check and assess all the progress that the team has been going through the development process. So all of them will have visibility, and we can see who's responsible for what exactly, and what's the updates for each of the tasks. So after the development, we start doing the sprint retrospective, where we go through everything that has been created and check all the issues that the team faced, just to learn from it. So the last thing is one last thing before we finish in the after development process is the product review, and we get feedback from the team on the whole solution that has been created. This is after development, huh? So after the development of it, we will need to check and get feedback on every single aspect from the solution. And we tackle any problems. If we do have any problems, that we will need to tackle them and then complete the features that has been created. The last thing is, since we do have most of the time do have some problems, we document all the technical problems that has been faced. Why we do that? Just to avoid wasting time, and just in case if we did face them again. And sometimes we do share it with other teams as well, just to share our lessons learned. This is a good idea. So all of the teams in IBM also to learn from each other. So what are the tools and the methodologies that helps us during those the process that we went through? So we do have so many tools here, and actually during the COVID era, we are extensively using most of them. So WebEx basically is to meet regularly with the projects, for the projects with our team, other teams, and so on. Mural is used to brainstorm and create ideas, especially now with the virtual life right now. We need Mural to start creating with clients, business partners, or any other stakeholders. Again, those are Trello board and Jira are an example of project management tools that we extensively use every day. Carbon design, this is the IBM language, design language that we use to prototype the solutions. GitHub, GitLab, I don't think I should explain it. I guess it's really clear. Slack is one of the communication tools that we use for work. Garage methodology, this is where we use the best practices that includes trendy concepts like something like continuous delivery and continuous integration, DevOps, problem solving, and other techniques as well. Selenium, this is a testing automation tool that really helps us as well, where we can test on different browsers without making the tool and like learn about the test script. So it's really useful to automate testing. And of course, Verse or using mails or Outlooks. So towards the end of the process, we will need to go through the testing to overcome any biases, identify any bugs or problems, gaps, or anything like that, to leverage by leveraging different testing techniques, something like user acceptance, unit testing, usability testing, functionality testing, and actually we do peer review at the beginning after completing every user story, every feature. This is really good to check any bugs before we continue to the next feature. In addition to the continuous testing that we do while we are working together. So the last thing is doing the product review, where we usually create a POC. This means that we just create a solution proof to the client before we start creating the whole solution that has all the features. And usually the POC has one of the most critical features. However, it's really like a completed one. However, it's really small in size. That really so it really tackles one of the problems or the features that has been identified in the previous activities. That again, that takes us to the ultimate goal of the client. And so we invite the stakeholders. Then we start a simplified demo. However, it should be really comprehensive, and we get feedback and discuss about the solution. And if we get any feedback from the stakeholders, we will need to improve it and then go through the cycle again. So one of the last things we should have is the playback, the final one, listening to all the deliverables and activities with all the results that has been done in phase 3. After that, we will do a theater playback to review all the activities, deliverables that has been done since step 0, I guess, since the beginning of the co-creation. So just to summarize, we went through the experience-based roadmap. The hills, this is where we do the wow factor. So the experience-based roadmap, where we identify the short-term goals and long-term actions, something like that. And then the wow factor, while we are using the agile co-creation, flexibility, continuous improvement in every activity in the process with the help of the tools as well. Then we do a testing and product review.